Hi, this is Ken Gidge, and this is The Art of Politics. And as you know, people out there, I have been talking about being in the Boston Globe. I've been telling you this for about 6 months, that they were going to do a story on me. So January 5th, this is the magazine. Don't move that chair, David, you'll be right on. All right, this is the magazine in the Boston Globe. This was Saturday. Actually, it was in both Friday and Saturday.
Well, the 5th
and
is
this is the story. What? Let me finish.
Okay.
Can you let me finish?
Sorry, go right ahead.
And this is the story. Now, I have been telling people that this type of painting is a new form of art. So what they did is they went out and they got 2 people. One is an artist who does 3D and who says, let's see, I got the quote, not the Exodus Museum. He said, meaning I get it, I can't, anyway, he's very excited. He says, the hell with it. I don't know how he's doing it, but that's good. And this other person is from some institute who knows everything about 3D and how the eyes work. And he says, well, Gidge just didn't wake up in the morning and think that he was going to work 3D. He's had a meandering life. I love that, meandering life. And on that note, this is The Art of Politics. And of course, my friend, Dave. How you doing?
How are you?
I'm doing very well.
Good to see you. I wanted to just to add to that. That article was really impressive, and I don't want you to think I'm pandering because I'm already.
You can pander. It's okay.
No, it's all right. I'm already becoming the top dog in this duo, so I don't need to.
Okay.
What that article points out is that you may be the closest thing to a Renaissance man that I know.
Aha!
And that's terrifying. when I think about that.
Well,
but I mean, the stuff you've done, I think you ought to, have you posted that on your website yet?
This is up, but not all the things I've done. No, you know, this is odd because I have no idea, or have I ever known an idea what a Renaissance man or person is. I had no idea. And what basically a Renaissance individual is interested in everything. Would you agree?
Not only interested in everything, but has the ability to take things that are disparate and bring them together in a way that creates something bigger.
I'm sorry I threw those on the floor because there was a quote there that and if somebody comes out and gives it to me, I'll read it. There's a quote there that I don't know where it came from. I just said it. I got in kind of like an argument with this, not an argument, but a discussion, and we got very philosophical. Mm-hmm. And I had a quote. And I thought it was one that I said. Yep. And it surprised me. And so that's sort of going to be on everything. And basically what it says is that you know, you can love the small and you can love the large, and you just go with everything. And anyway, so the Globe, it was on the Globe. So folks, I wasn't lying to you, honest to God. Just this, and then we'll get to anything you want to do.
Well, you said, just quick, you said, I can love the small and I can love the large?
Well, you know, you can...
Are you a boob man?
Am I a boob man? I'm telling you, since he's been out of politics, this is what I get. All right, can I show you the bill I've got?
Oh, you wrote a bill?
I wrote a bill.
Are you the sole author of this bill?
I am the sole author of it.
All right, you go right ahead.
All right, it's a very simple bill. It's really not complicated bill. And I'm just going to read the first sentence. By reading the first sentence, we'll give you an idea of what the bill says. This bill establishes a commission to study funding mechanisms for increasing the number of mental health beds statewide. So that's what that bill is. And that bill will be filed tomorrow, and there's a great explanation in there of exactly what I think and what, trying to talking about mental illness. I mean, we are so far beyond losing it here in this country. Mental illness, well, how many beds have we lost in the state of New Hampshire? What, 50, 100 beds for mental illness? And monies have been cut everywhere. I mean, you're going to have a lot of, and do you know, we have one statistic, and I know Richard may not believe this, but since Connecticut, where 26 people were killed, 20 children.
27 people, actually.
Oh, that's right. Well, 20, that's correct. Well, the mother and the mother and...
The shooter killed himself.
Oh, all right, okay, all right. There have been 695 homicides with guns.
In the country. So that's about 3 weeks?
Yes, and there also has been, I think, a run of people going out and shooting 2 or 3 more people at a time and then turning the gun on themselves.
Well, that without saying anything about that's terrifying and it's awful.
Yeah, it's awful. It's awful.
It's just awful and worthy of exploration and worthy of and this is coming from somebody who belongs to the NRA and somebody who believes very strongly in the Second Amendment. There has to be a way that we can come together over some of these issues, some of these public safety issues.
Well, you're saying that, but David, what are they? And when somebody comes up to you and says, well, we think all guns should have locks and on them, gun locks. Oh, no, just in case we need the gun, we're going to take the lock off. We don't want it on there. Give me an example. You belong to the NRA. Tell me right here, right now, to that camera and those people, what would you do if you could?
I'm not going to say it to the camera. I'm going to say it to you. So keep watching this way.
Well, no, the camera's looking at you.
No, I understand.
All right, okay.
First off, good question. You caught me a little bit off guard, but that's okay. I'll do the best I can.
Well, then stop talking about.
No.
What do you got?
No, that's okay. I'm gonna give this a shot.
I'll give it a shot. I'm glad he got that one in. Okay, that was cute. Okay.
I think, and this is going to sound hokey, I think the first thing that we could do is talk to people who believe strongly on the other side and find out exactly what it is they are concerned with.
What other side?
Be it folks who believe in gun rights or folks who believe in everybody can carry everything. Because one of the things that I've been thinking about, there are limits. There are limits right now. The question is, should the limits on what an individual can have for a firearm be more circumscribed? Okay,
well, say something directly. Get two people talking together. How much more talking do we need?
Well,
does the statistic 695 since the shooting of 27 make, how much more talking do we need?
All right, this is what makes it so difficult for me. Can you articulate what is it that you believe that statistic represents, and what would you like to do with it?
No. I asked you if you could give something, because you were just talking about it. In particular, I want to hear something particular. Talking about it no longer has to be done. If you could right now just go, da, and it would be, what would it be?
All right, what it would be is...
No, and this is about guns, not mental illness.
Well, no, it's not about mental illness, although obviously a whole lot of things play into this. What I would do is if I had James Brady in front of me right now, from the Brady organization, I would say, Jim, what is it you want to have happen? In other words, is the end nobody has a firearm?
And who's Brady's for those people? Because there are people who don't know who Brady was.
James Brady was Ronald Reagan's press secretary. He was a person who was very severely wounded in 1981 when Reagan was shot. There's an organization, the Brady Organization, which is a gun control organization. And it's one of the best known, and he's done a lot of wonderful things.
He was shot where?
He was shot in the brain.
Right in the brain.
Yeah, I don't, and he was paralyzed and his speech is slurred, and we don't see him very often. But
And
his
this
wife,
happened when?
81.
So we should just keep talking about it and do nothing.
You really don't want to give me a chance to deal with this rationally, do you?
Well, okay, go ahead. All right, I'm sorry.
Okay,
All
thank
right.
you, because I am trying to take this seriously.
All right, well.
What I think is, in all of this, people are talking over each other. What is it, Jim, if I were talking to him, what is it you want to have happen? Do you want to, is the end to get handguns off the street? Is the end to lower the number of people who are killed?
The question is not to Jim Brady, it's to you. If you could go like this, what would you do?
Kenny,
talking to Jim Brady, it ain't going to help. You're the man, you're the doctor, you're the Lord and Master. Go like this and do something to change it. What would you do?
You know, I honestly don't know if I would do anything one way or the other right now, except...
Well, except talk about it.
No, except one thing. I do believe that it is both constitutional and appropriate and necessary, if we're going to have background checks, that they be all the way across the board, and that the ability to transfer guns without a background check is probably something that I would support. I mean, in other words, changing that.
Everyone who buys a gun from everywhere, including gun shows, should have a background check.
I think I would really look at that very, very carefully.
Okay, well, no, hold on a second. You are Lord and Master. You're going to go like this and you're going to change something. What is it?
The thing is, I don't know if that would be effective.
Well,
no, but I'm just saying.
Have you thought about this at all?
Yeah, I think about it every day.
Okay, then you're the Lord and Master. What can you change right now to stop this?
What I'm saying, Ken, is this would be the first place I would start. This would be the place I would look at the statistic. I think this is something that A, is doable, B, is legal, and C, would have an impact.
All right, okay, so what you're saying is that nobody can buy a gun unless they have a background check.
That's the place I'm going to with this.
Okay, so that means...
Wait a minute. Stop trying to back me into a corner on this. I'm trying to do this in a logical way. I'm trying to do this in a thoughtful way. And what I'm saying is, I think this is the place where we could... Look at that little smile on his face. Look at this. He knows he's got me. He knows he's got me. He knows... I'm sitting here and I'm trying to be Dave, the reasonable, rational, compassionate person.
Can't do it.
And he's sitting there and he's going, ooh, I'm gonna jack that SOB up. Boom.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, so I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna get off my high horse. That's what I do. Go ahead.
All right, okay. So let me just, I want to get to see if I can...
You know what? Wait a minute. Ken, do you see this?
Yeah, I know.
Okay, excuse me. I'm sorry about that.
Read between the lines, I mean, that's the way. All right. So you'd really do nothing.
I think that's a decent step. I think that's a decent first step.
Okay, I got one for you.
Okay, go ahead.
Everyone should have a background check, period. And that means gun shows also. And it's not that complicated.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's the same thing I'm saying.
You wouldn't go along with gun shows.
Well, no, I said I would. That was the whole point of this whole thing.
So everyone gets everyone, right across the board.
If you want to buy a firearm,
you got to have a background.
You got to have a background
Okay,
check.
you said it. Okay, so,
Yeah.
all right,
Yeah.
all right. Okay, so that's it. But I'll add this. Anyone who purchases a gun and has a license to possess a gun must know how to shoot a gun. Because for 2 years up in the House of Representatives, after it passed, saying that us as state representatives could carry a gun. And by the way, I'm one of 4 Democrats who voted against getting rid of this law. I thought if you're an elected official and you go to Concord, you should carry a gun if you want to. But having said that, some of these people who went out and bought a gun and carried a gun, state officials, didn't know how to use a gun. They dropped them on the ground. They took them out, showed people what it was. They went out to bars and talking about, here, look at this. I got one here, I got one there. Guess what? That's not how it works. A gun owner a person who has guns understands that they're dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
All right?
A responsible owner of a firearm.
All right. Not like some ninnies, state representatives last year who are using them, who are carrying them. They're gone. Okay?
Some of them.
Yeah. Some. All right. No. But the ones who are still there are not ninnies. They're individuals who are carrying guns, as far as I know right now, who are carrying guns, who understand what a gun is and knows how to use a gun, and they have a permit for the gun. And I see nothing wrong with that, as long as, but if you want to know the truth, I think in the State House, police and representatives should carry them, no one else. That's fair. So that's what I would do.
All right. I suspect we'll talk more about this at a later time.
I hope so. But that bill is so watered down. Mental illness. It was connected to guns.
This is your bill.
This is my bill. I just threw on the floor. Basically, it had to do with guns. It started out saying the person purchases a gun is charged $10. The person who sells a gun is charged $10. That $20 is to be collected by the person who sells the gun and then given to the state to study mental illness. Well, guess what?
What?
I was told that you can't do that because nobody would go along with it, especially the gun people, because they don't want nothing connected. Yep. And it's mental illness, obviously, that causes most of the trouble. So they said, why don't you make it really simple? And really simple is to study it. How are we going to get money to add more beds? So that's my bill. And let's see what happens. So we're going to follow it. Okay.
Some of us may follow it from farther behind than others.
Yes. You have something you want to talk about, or you want to go to
I just real quick.
Okay.
I'm looking at another one of the government affirmative action programs.
Which is?
Well, it's for Hispanics. And I know I'm going to get into trouble with this.
Watch it.
I know I'm going to get in trouble with this.
I just dropped my mic. I hope it's working. If it's not working, Richard, let me know.
Fell
in the thing and I was drinking it.
Yeah, well, that's because
drinking my mic.
Drinking your mics?
Go on.
Oh, okay. Jack Lew is the President's Chief of Staff right now. He's being nominated to be the Treasury Secretary.
Yes.
And his signature looks like a series of things like it's. And I started to look at dollar bills because actually I looked at a 20. The Treasury Secretary's signature is on there. It's going to be funny to see Jack Lew's signature.
Okay.
The United States Treasurer, the Treasurer of the United States, is over on the left-hand side. And I started looking at some different money.
Go ahead.
And I realized since 1971, all of the people that I could remember who were treasurers had Hispanic surnames. And I went back and I looked, and there have been about 11 of them. And
who's this? This is 20. Who would be there?
This is Cabral.
Then that's who?
That's Treasurer of the United States.
And he is Hispanic?
He has a Hispanic surname. And I looked at since
But is he Hispanic?
I don't know.
Okay, so are you saying
wait,
Hispanics are taking over our money?
What I'm saying is of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, of the 11 people who have been treasurers since 1970, 7 of them have had Hispanic surnames: Cabas, Benuelas, Ortega, Villapazo, Marin, Cabral, Rios. And I just thought, that's interesting. Can you imagine? It's sort of like having the Jewish seat on the Supreme Court.
You don't know when you've stepped off the bridge.
I'm just committing. There's no chance that I'm ever going to get elected to anything again.
So I know what you're saying. If it was,
I'm just not saying it in a very
PC all
PC way.
Or all Kennedys or all Robbins, then you don't want that. Right?
Well, no, I'm not even saying I don't want it. I just say it's interesting.
Okay, it's fascinating.
I find it interesting. It's almost as though, I need to do something with somebody who has a Hispanic surname to demonstrate something. Here, let's give them the Treasurer of the U.S.
What type of name is that?
Jack Lew. Remember, he's the Treasury Secretary. He's not.
No, I
nothing
understand that.
I don't know whether it is an Asian American name or I don't know whether it's Liu, Liu, Lew. I don't even know what the guy looks like.
Well, He's been around since Reagan. He doesn't look that old.
He's been OMB chairman twice, apparently, and he was writing speeches for somebody during Reagan, or he worked on somebody's campaign during Reagan's
Finances, mostly.
Yeah.
He was, so that was interesting. Have anything other news that you would like to talk
well,
about?
Well, no, please go ahead.
No. I have been criticized for not giving you enough time.
I really, really have a hard time. I've got a quote here, and it must have been by one of the real lefties.
Ladies and gentlemen, you will have a quote from a lefty.
I have a quote, and this guy must have been a real lefty because he's coming after God's chosen people. I am frankly sick and tired of the political preachers across this country telling me as a citizen that if I want to be a moral person, can't do that anymore. I must believe in A, B, C, and D. Just who do they think they are, and from where do they presume to claim the right to dictate their moral beliefs to me? I'm warning them. I'll fight them every step of the way if they try to dictate their moral convictions to all Americans in the name of conservatism. Now, that obviously was some left-wing crackpot doing that.
So this person sounds like he's been beat up by what people call the crackpots, the ultra-conservatives.
The ultra-conservative religious right.
It must be a Democrat.
It must be a Democrat.
Who said it?
Barry Goldwater.
Barry Goldwater?
Barry Goldwater, September 16th, 1981.
Wow.
A speech in the U.S. Senate.
Wow. Good for him.
Isn't that interesting?
Good for him.
Now, for those folks...
Considering to be the father of?
Father of, before Reagan, he was the guy that Reagan followed. He was the guy that Reagan read about. He was the presidential nominee in 1964, senior senator from Arizona in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and a great...
So you think Reagan was a good president because...
I wasn't going to go there, although I think...
I would like to.
Well, we can in just a minute. Let me wrap this up. I was being facetious. What increasingly occurs to me is how the right, religious right of the Republican Party, the party that I've chosen, is just doing a number on a lot of things in this country. And here's Barry Goldwater was a far-right conservative when he was running. And all of a sudden, it's almost as though he's on the left-hand side of the argument because he was a true libertarian.
Okay. We were talking about mental illness, obviously.
You're not accusing me of anything, are you?
No, of course. Since I wrote a bill, I have a bill coming out regarding mental illness, little history is who stopped funding mental illness here in the United States, and within 90 days there were something like 300,000 or 400,000 mental illness, people who have mental illness out on the street.
And, I have no idea.
Ronald Reagan.
Really?
Ronald Reagan did it. And his philosophy was, well, the public sector will pick it up. It was Ronald Reagan, mental illness, who's the one who let everyone out. And you remember those times, don't you? Well, you must remember the times actually, when all of a sudden...
I do from a different perspective, but go ahead and then I'll chime in.
Well, there was for anyone who is not from, that would be early 80s, Reagan? I'm not sure.
Reagan was 81 to 89.
All right. Well, in the early 80s, when Reagan came in, it would be probably 82, what he did was he just literally stopped the funding and mental hospitals, etc., just let people out because they had no money. So for about, it's still going on, for about 30 or 40 years, you have mental people walking around the streets. In fact, a statistic which I got when I did this bill was that 20% of the people in jail have mental illness. Well, they cause some sort of a problem, they get arrested. Then you put them in a cell, so that's good. A person with schizophrenia, they ought to be in a cell. I mean, and they don't have the money basically to take care of them, so they basically leave them there. And they have doctors come in and I guess drug them up if at all possible. But before that happens, a lot of people get hurt. Also here in New Hampshire, one of the things that takes place, this is from a person who drives ambulances. They'd pick up mental people, they'd bring them to the hospital. I mean, and they would be left in the hospital, literally inside the cubicle, some for several days, because there were no spaces, there were no beds for these people. Now, that's not basically who we are. You have to care for those who cannot care for themselves, and those people who try to constantly say, well, we can't take care of anyone. Guy kills 26 people and himself, and in Connecticut happens to be one of the states, and this is against Connecticut, one of the states that's most difficult to have somebody committed, a parent to a child. Almost impossible in Connecticut. Watch that change. So, there we go.
Well, I appreciate that. Here's some of my recollection. My recollection that deinstitutionalization, which is a lot of what we're talking about, at least as far back as the 70s, began as a result of a public understanding and a public belief and a public knowledge of the horrors that were going on in state mental institutions. In Massachusetts, Michael Dukakis was instrumental. He was governor in the 70s and into the 80s. He and the people before him were instrumental in deinstitutionalization because of places like Willowbrook, New York. Geraldo Rivera was one of the people who got a camera into a place called Willowbrook, New York. People were lying in their own feces. These are mentally ill people. So the idea of deinstitutionalization was supposed to be a good thing, and in fact it was proposed and implemented in many cases by liberals. Reagan.
Oh, that's not. Don't go there.
Okay. Wait a second. Let me finish.
Instead of being inside these buildings where they're at least fed with a little heat, guess what? They're out on the streets now.
Kenny,
freezing to death.
Kenny, I gave you. I gave you.
Well, don't get liberal into this. Okay.
Well, this is, when I say liberal, I mean, I'm thinking about Dukakis, for example. He was one of the prime movers in Massachusetts of this. And I'm not saying this is
He didn't get them let out. He wanted to make the institution safer and better and cleaner.
No, in fact,
he didn't let them out. He didn't
they
open
did.
the door and let them out.
Yes, they did. If you go, Munson Development Center, there are 3 or 4 or 5 state hospitals that existed in Massachusetts in the 60s and 70s. They've all basically been closed. There's one on the North Shore. There's the Munson Development Center. I'll wrap this up.
We just talked about money.
Kenny,
go ahead. Okay.
Kenny, I'll wrap this up. This was the idea. Now, to support what you said, the idea was we're going to get them out of institutions and we are going to provide care for them on the outside so that they can have all of these supports that they're not getting. And so this is what you're saying. This is a good thing if that were to happen. And money was cut from this, and I just was looking at...
what happened?
Money, I think you're going to like this. I think you're going to like this. What I was looking at was an abstract by a fellow. It was talking about how the conservatives, in many cases, tried to cut money away from this because it was not necessarily something that they believed was appropriate. Law and Order Republicans, a coalition of fiscal conservatives, and also relatives of mentally ill patients. And Reagan's administration was one in which funding for this area, I believe, dropped. I don't have the figures here. So I don't...
Within 3 to 6 months, I believe there was 375 to 400,000 people that were out on the street. I can remember how, and don't misunderstand me, I saw the people who are in institutions who were literally sleeping in their feces. I mean, come on, you can't do that. Who are chained, you couldn't do that. The difference was now they were outside. They didn't have any mental, they didn't have any health at all. They had no place to stay. They were really running out in front of cars, which they still happen to do, all right? You gotta, we as a country have to take care of some people who have mental illness and do not have any way to figure out how to get help. We have to come in and help them. And as Republicans, you can't turn around and say, this is a good way to to, you know, save money. And I don't want to get back into the 4.5 social workers that the Republicans in New Hampshire got rid of for $441,000 of savings, but the social workers saved the state of New Hampshire $1.5 million. But because of you guys, and this is mental health now. David, you don't have to look at me when I'm talking.
No, I know.
But, you know,
Oh, I'm sorry. Am I being disrespectful?
I think yeah. I think you are.
I'm trying to get. Well, I apologize. I guess I'm really tired of. I start to snooze off with the social worker thing, because if you guys think that this is, you know, this particular issue is important, do something about it. You know, that was 2 years ago.
I believe we started the show talking about mental illness.
I thought we started.
And you said you wanted to do some thinking about it.
Which is what I'm doing.
You guys thought about it, the Republicans, and during the bad times that we are in, fired 4.5 social workers, which, by the way, they are county social work, Hillsborough County social workers. Okay. So they do the worst of the worst, all right, of individuals. They are very important. Getting rid of them when they came in and said, hey, we saved the state $1.5 million by keeping people from out of jail, keeping them on their medications, stopping suicides. And by the way, in Nashua, didn't we have several suicides where people hung themselves kind of in a public way without mentioning how they hung themselves?
How did they hang themselves?
Well, they hung themselves, and so just in case the family is watching. Suicide, that's mental illness.
What's the point? What point are you making? Are you making the point that we need to do something about mental health and their mental health issues, and here are some of the problems?
These people who I talked about hung themselves, took just themselves. There are people walking around who, since, Connecticut, 695 people have been shot. Of those, I don't know how many were killed, okay? So I want to refigure that out. If anyone thought that I said 695, and I can hear this guy yelling, I apologize. After thinking about it for a second, he's in there, he's going nuts. All right. So it's mental illness, right? Okay.
I'm confused as to where we are and where we're going, but I'm very willing to just watch and go along.
All right. Then would you like to change the subject? I mean, if you just let me.
I am in your hands.
Okay. As you may know, in the Telegraph, which is, what's the date? January, today, Thursday, which is the 10th Thursday, front page, rail study put back on track. You see, and this was, by the way, Republicans, his name was McGuire, who put in a bill simply stating that not only we don't need it, it's going to cost, everybody a lot of money.
Now, this was 2 years ago they put a bill in, or is this year?
Who?
McGuire.
2 years ago.
Okay,
this has stopped it. This has stopped it for 2 years.
What I'm just trying to do is...
And this was just a study, by the way.
Ken, just trying to frame, get it framed so that the people there understand what's going on, that it's not, that Representative McGuire put in a bill, as we were saying, 2 years ago, to not fund the Rail Study Committee, to stop it, to de-establish the Rail Committee.
Yeah,
okay.
That's it.
Okay.
Okay, so, and for you people here in Nashua, there's something you really got to know. We are and have been the economic engine, larger than Manchester. So if you take us as a component of, let's say, a vehicle, we probably would be 3/4 of the engine. Most of the vehicle would be then Manchester, and then it would go right down to the tailpipe, which would be small little towns. So if we would want rail up here, I'm under the impression people think it's just rail for Nashua and not industry, not bringing goods in, not bringing people coming to New Hampshire to work, companies coming to New Hampshire and yet want people from Massachusetts who have good degrees. You want them to come up this way. These are very important things. Will it cost the state a little bit money? Oh, I think so at the beginning. But I think the people who come up here and then decide to stay and contribute, I think this is probably, I'm very, very happy that this is coming back, the rail, which is very, very important. And I'm really, really sorry. And by the way, you did vote to do what?
I voted to study the rail option.
Study the rail option.
Yeah, which is essentially what's coming up again.
Okay.
So
right.
I voted. I was, well, that's how I voted.
Well, you voted
you
that way,
and I voted
shot.
You and I voted the same way.
You would have been shot.
Just let's put this in a context. What this is, this has little or nothing to do directly with bringing rail service back. What this is a bill to take federal monies, which I understand have already been appropriated, to take some cash contributions from Nashua and other area businesses that have been made already.
Correct.
To get together and, under the auspices of the federal government and the state government, to study over a 2-year period whether or not passenger rail service makes sense. Is that correct?
That is correct. And
okay.
The sad part of why it's taken 2 years, by the way, the Republicans wanted to give this money back to the federal government. What was it, $3 million, $6 million you guys wanted to give back?
It was less than that, but it was a chunk of money.
You know,
it was a chunk of money.
When you get money like that, and the economy's pretty bad, you know, there are a lot of people who must look at this, not just people who can do the numbers. There are people who've got to go out into the field. I mean, it was jobs involved.
You know, I just realized why people like me more than you on this show.
Okay.
Well, I am reasonable. I mean, I'm sitting here and I'm not you know, continually hitting you over the head with the Democrat-Republican thing. I'm trying to look at the issues.
Well, you're the one who started. I'm sorry. You're the one. I didn't say that until you brought up it was the liberals.
Oh, you mean two conversations ago?
Yes, that's where I came after you. But whatever, it's coming back, which is good. Would you agree that it's good?
I think the study is a good thing. And if I were still in the legislature, I would vote to have the study. That does not necessarily mean that I would vote to have passenger rail, because what I want to do is I want to see what the results of the study were.
It's not, it's yes, and I think there's got to be explanation. Passenger also means goods and services coming, not all passenger railroads, by the way, just go with passengers.
I thought this was solely passenger.
Okay, well, I'm saying, yes, but when you study rails and railroads and tracks, you will bring more goods in.
But there are already, railroad tracks are already there,
yes.
And goods and services already travel by train in the state, don't they?
And if more people come, you will need more.
All right, but I just want to be clear. This is not a study of overall, you know, whether we should have
He's not giving it to me.
Whether we should
He's
have
not giving it to me.
Whether we should have rail or not. This is a question of passenger rail, building a passenger rail terminal in Nashua and Manchester, so that commuter rail, for example, that can extend past Lowell.
Do you know why there were 400 state representatives here in the state of New Hampshire? Do you know why? It had something to do with the railroad. The railroads were so bad that they were buying politicians. This is true. I'm going to, in a very short version. So our legislature expanded to 400 so no one company could come in and control the whole state. That's the reason why you and I are here, was because of the railroad.
You know, I think that's wonderful. And when we get talking about gambling, I'm going to bring that up again.
Gambler?
Yeah, well, when we do. Later show, later time. Yeah.
Well, I'm for gambling. You?
No.
Oh, I'm really for gambling.
I'm really against it.
Yeah.
So when the time comes, and
is that got to do with religion or something?
No, what it has to do is companies getting so big that they buy the legislature. You just brought that topic up.
Oh my God. They buy the legislature.
Wasn't that what you were talking about with the railroads?
No, that's why we're here, David. This doesn't happen anymore. One of the reasons why is because the legislature is so big. And by the way, if you want to get into talking about gambling, we know that at least 50% of the individuals, political individuals in the state don't want it. So if it's ever going to happen, it's going to be a big fight. Now, Richard brought you out something.
I haven't read it, and I'm not going to read it right now because I want to be paying attention to you. And we were talking about
Well, thank
this.
you. We're talking about rail.
Yeah.
And so you want to know, you want to know, and what I say about you're saying, oh, let's do it, and I'm saying, let's do it. I'm saying not only should we study it, we should then implement it.
So in other words, then why are we studying it?
That's what a lot of people would like to know, David, because everybody knows we need it.
Well, but why in other words, I had thought, and maybe this is naively on my part, I had thought, you know, I really don't know that this is going to be economically appropriate. I don't know if it's going to be a good thing. However, yeah, let's take a look at it. Let's study it. Now, just let me finish. Just let me finish. Let's take a look at it. Let's study it. Now, maybe that's a naive approach to actually try to get information to make a decision. And if it is, wow, call me a cockeyed optimist.
Excuse me, we've had railroad in the state of New Hampshire. We had it, okay? It is because there is so much opposition that we have to study something we already know should be in place. And then some yahoo from Rochester, by the way, a guy named McGuire, who's a free stater, here's your free stater, convinces people, not necessarily like you, but other people who don't live around the Nashua area, that we don't need rail because rail's going to cost everybody a lot of money. Does your highway cost money? Have you gone down Route 3 at 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the afternoon trying to come into Nashua, or 6 trying to get up Route 3 to 128 and get on 128?
All right, we were talking about rail. We were talking about whether or not it made sense. All I'm suggesting, I'm going to try to wrap this up, is it appropriate at least to try to find out how much something might cost before going gung-ho on doing it?
And I think that's a very good point, but the problem is, David, we already know rail is needed in the state of New Hampshire. We already know that. In fact, there is rail that goes by UNH up into the mountains already. Kids from UNH can get a train into Boston, okay? So we already know that works. So the reason why we're going this step simply is because people go, oh no, it's going to cost everyone so much money, not remembering that rail does a lot, brings more into the state, lets more out of the state. And when you're in Nashua, New Hampshire, when you're from Nashua or from Manchester, guess what? This is really important. And by the way, who are the economic engines? We are the largest of the state, Nashua. At this particular point, we're the largest economic engine, Nashua. Manchester is second at this point. Now, the question is, if we want it, not for the simple sake of having it, but if we want it because we believe we need it, then get it. You need more studies?
Ken, would it be appropriate to try to find out an estimate of how much something might cost before going out and buying it?
I will bet you I can find out in probably 1 hour the entire cost of it.
All right.
Okay.
That would be, so is it something
Your point is what? Your point is what?
My point is, for the third time, is it appropriate to try to determine how much something might cost before going out and buying it?
And if you knew the history of the state of New Hampshire, you would realize that we've already had it.
I'm going to ask this a
We
fourth
have
time.
already
I'm going to ask this a fourth time.
done it. We've already done it. And it's people, excuse me, like yourself and a guy like McGuire who
Personal ad
would
hominem
rather,
attacks.
all right, thank you, would rather say, let's study it again. We need more studies. Study what? What do you want to know, David?
I'll tell you.
Tell me.
I'm trying to. I was a first-term state rep last year. I did not have the benefit of all of these studies. I did go back and I did look at some of the stuff that had been done. I do know that things change and times change. What I wanted to find out how much this might cost, and having the rail study seemed to me the best way to do it. People that I respected on both sides, some of them were saying, we don't want to do this. Some people were saying we really do want to do this. I thought I'd really like to get some more information. I'm almost through.
Sounds good, David.
I'm almost. However, I do think that the people out there, the 3 or 4 people who are actually watching this program, hopefully more than that, really are owed. Let's find out how much this cost. And if then we decide to do it on a cost-benefit ratio, let's do it. And then if we decide not to, let's not do it.
You know, David, let me tell you the problem, and I love you. I've known you a long time. But you were a first term. And on your first term, a free stater brought something out and fed it to you, and you ate it. And that was, guess what? We not only don't need the railroad, we want to send back the $3 million.
Kenny, I voted to have the study.
Okay, so
I voted to have the study.
All right, now hold on.
I wasn't getting wet and fed.
Hold on a second. You were fed that, but if you would have backed off a little and got a little more information, which you didn't have time to do, first term is a tough time, no question about that. You would have seen railroad is already working in New Hampshire. It's just not working in Nashua and Manchester. We have the stats about railroad. But let's study it again.
Well, Kenny, I didn't have the opportunity to vote on the pluses and minuses of railroad because there was no bill there. The only bill
Right,
that was there
right.
the first term was to have or not have the study. What did I do? I voted to have the study.
Excuse me. Why since we had the money?
Why
did we have to? Wait a minute. Why was there a vote?
That's not
the vote was to what?
The vote was to not actually to have or not. It was
to
the Rail Commission.
Send the money back to Washington.
And I voted against
or
it.
Keep the money.
You know, it's like talking to. I apologize in advance, but I am feeling frustrated. It's like talking to a wall. All I'm saying is, I voted Ken's way. I voted the way he voted on this. I'm pretty sure we can go back and compare. And now I'm just saying. So what's the argument? We both voted to have the rail study. We both want to see the rail study. What are we arguing about?
You know, David, look.
What are we arguing about?
If a free stater didn't come into the state and say, free stater say, we're going to take the state over and we're going to, like a free stater ran against me, okay? This is factual. We'll not mention his name. He ran against me. So I'm talking to him and I said, well, you know, they might put a toll booth at the end, you know, before Massachusetts, and we've got to stop that. And he said, no. He says, I truly believe that every road should be a toll so they pay for themselves. That's what a free stater does. Wow. A free stater came in and did not say, only said railroads are going to be too expensive, but let's give the money back to Washington, money that we had $3 million.
Okay, all right.
All right.
So he said that, all right.
All right.
Okay.
Now, us who have been in the city for a long time have used the railroad before.
Okay.
Railroad, all of a sudden, because of the highways and trucking, guess what happened? Railroad wasn't used, so railroad went away.
All across the country.
Right. All of a sudden, all across the main parts like New Hampshire, except Massachusetts, rail is now becoming really important. In fact, if you want to go from Boston to New York on a rail, you know, you might have to call to get a reservation. There are people who leave Boston to go to New York who have to stand up all the way.
Yeah, I've been on the Acela.
You've been on that. Fun, huh?
Actually, yeah, the time I took it. So where does that leave us?
It's frustrating. That's just so frustrating to go after 2 years to do the same thing over again.
Talk about frustrating, God.
Well, you want to, you know, you guys want to, you guys,
us guys, what guys?
Group of
us
Republicans want to just keep on hashing the same thing over and over and over. And,
do I want to do that on this? Am I one of those guys?
No, but you're out there and you're looking at the people and you're being so honest. You say, well, I really want my voters to know exactly what it's going to cost. We already know what it's going to cost.
How much is it going to
well,
cost?
I'll tell you what. I don't have the numbers on me.
Okay, fair enough.
But we already have rail already in New Hampshire that goes to Boston.
Okay.
Up around the UNH area. We know the stats on it.
And there's a seacoast going from from Portland down to, what's it called, the Downeaster?
I don't know.
Yeah, it is. It goes down to Boston, and it would be I mean, let's find out what the cost
You know,
might be.
and what the interesting part about all of this is the real cost, and now just to take David's side just a little, and that is one of the big. You want?
I think I'm going to have heart palpitations.
Good. Well, one of the big things.
I got to stop doing that.
And I wish. No offense. I was going to say I wish one of us would die and you record it, keep recording. But the cost would be buying land and putting up, it would be putting up a little rail station. That is expensive, no question about that. But as far as this costing the state money for a period of time, will cost. But if you drive up and down Route 3 to get to 128 in the afternoon or the morning, 20 miles an hour after I leave 128, almost down to Lowell, and I can't figure it out. Every time I go there, I think there's an accident. Someone's in an accident. That's why we're doing this.
Well, I go down Route 3 into Boston 2-3 times a week, so I absolutely hear what you're saying. And
frustrating?
Depending upon the time of the drive, it can be very frustrating.
But having said that, you can get rail in Lowell.
You can. Bill Recca.
Which is
a whole bunch of places.
Well, you would go to Lowell and so it's not that much to get up here. I really wish they would try the rail without getting into enormous cost, but that's almost impossible. And that's one of the things I can understand. I can understand that.
You know what?
What?
Somehow, in the last 15 seconds, you sound reasonable.
Dave, you got to get back into politics.
Oh no, I don't think
you got to get back into politics. You got to get back into politics.
Well, I am in politics, but I don't know that I can run for public office because some of the things that I've said on this program, if they're brought out in a campaign, I'll be pilloried.
Who's going to bring them out in a campaign? For my God,
anybody I run against.
All right. The Telegraph is up for sale. Did you know that? Did we talked about that?
No, I didn't know that.
Telegraph is up for sale.
Well, how did you hear that?
Well, because that's what they advertised that it was up for sale, and that's sad. Well, that's not sad because someone may come in and put in a large cash investment and because I miss it. I will miss the Telegraph.
Kenny, that's tremendous. That's tremendous news, and you're bringing it in at the end of the program. And I am for a minute, as we're talking, I just want to see what I can find here. How do you know this?
You don't have to do that on air. We can talk about it instead.
Well, no, but
these are going to be banned. This is the last time you're going to have one up here.
Well, then
no more. This is done. So, ladies and gentlemen, you watch him do this because instead of eye to eye, I'm looking at a guy who's tapping on a computer, and you're seeing me probably looking at me. And very distracting.
Okay.
And unprofessional.
No.
We are.
Look at what goes on in the news now. Here we go. The Telegraph. It's your community. Sale of the Telegraph. Not that surprising. Nashua is becoming more diverse. Oh, this is a letter. All right. We'll look into this. I think we ought to talk about this next week. I think this is very, very important because that's
only about a month. It's only come out about a month ago. But
we
will talk about it next week, sure.
But this is the first I've heard about it. And I don't think of myself as having my finger on the pulse of Nashua.
You don't.
Well, obviously I don't if I don't know about this.
All right, we have about 3 minutes. Would you like to say goodbye or give some information to the people watching?
Yeah, I think I would.
Okay.
Let me think of what I want to say. Okay. Hi, Dave Robbins here, and thank you very much for having us into your homes, all of you. We'd like to invite you down to the studio some night. We tape on Thursday evenings, and we'll have you here. We'll get you a cup of coffee. I can be reached at 978-500-9475 or David S. Robbins at Comcast.net. And now to our Renaissance man, Kenny.
David is not in politics for the next 2 years, but God, I hope somebody votes for him to get him back into politics. I love the guy, but it's getting difficult, and I'm only joking. My name is Ken Gidge. This is the art of politics. If we were, the art picture for the art of politics,
yeah,
That'd be a bad picture.
Well, let's just say somebody needs to do some restoration.
All right. My name is Ken Gidge. This is The Art of Politics. You can get me at Gidge World. That's my art site. Like I said to you people, the Globe was going to write a story. They did write a story. I'm sorry it took so long, but you can get me at area code 603-864-9332, or that's the only number I want to give you. So thank you very much. Dave?
Ken, thank you, and thanks for joining us tonight.